welcome back. Or if you're brand new, welcome to the channel. Often in my videos, I talk a lot about how to create healthier habits, how to train your brain to actually want to do the healthier behaviors that we already know we should be doing so that it feels easier to stay on track consistently. I talk a lot about how to reprogram and rewire those old patterns, that old operating system in your brain so that you can create the new healthy lifestyle that you want. But today I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about some of the things I think you should stop doing if you want to create healthier habits. Now, I'm going to share with you in this video 5 things that you need to stop doing if you want to create healthier habits that stick. So stick with me to the end because you're going to want to catch all 5 of these. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell. I upload new videos to the channel every Tuesday morning, all about how to reprogram and rewire your old habits around food. Okay, so let's get into the 5 things that you need to stop doing if you want to create healthier habits, all right? Number 1 is stop thinking too big. Very often I see people trying to create healthier habits and they're thinking way too big. They're talking about things like, I'm going to cut out sugar, I'm going to start working out, I'm going to prep all my meals for the week. These sound great, and I know that it can be sort of exciting to think that you're going to turn over this whole new leaf and create this whole new lifestyle overnight or starting Monday morning. But most of us know that this tends to end in failure. And one of the reasons is because we're just biting off more than we can chew. We're taking on too much. We're setting ourselves up for failure by creating these huge goals. And so instead of thinking so big, I really want to encourage you to start thinking small. I'm talking baby steps. So instead of, I'm going to give up sugar, maybe think of, I'm going to have 1 less teaspoon of sugar in my coffee in the morning, right? Just start there. Instead of, I'm going to start running every day, maybe it's just, I'm going to walk to the end of the street and back. And instead of, I'm going to prep all my meals for the week, maybe it's just on my busiest day, I'm going to prep my lunch for that day ahead of time. You know, so you break down these huge goals, which again, I know can feel sort of tempting and exciting at some level, but are really going to set you up for failure. Instead, break them down into small baby steps. What is just the first step of that big change you want to make? And just start there. Okay. So that's the first thing we need to stop doing. We need to stop thinking so big and we need to start breaking it down into baby steps. Okay, the second thing you need to stop doing if you want to create healthier habits is to stop framing the healthier choice as something you should do or need to do or have to do. The truth is that our human brains are wired to avoid pain, avoid discomfort. And every time we position the healthier choices we want to make as something we should do or have to do, even though we don't want to, again, we set ourselves up for failure. Your brain is never going to get on board with that. It's never going to want to do that. It's never going to be on the same page. So instead, we need to start reframing the healthier choices we want to make as something we kind of want to do, or at least where we're focusing on the benefit. So instead of thinking, you know, oh, I have to go to the gym today, or I should go to the gym today, see if you can start thinking about that activity, that action of going to the gym in a more positive way. Start focusing on, you know you're going to feel better when you go. You know you're going to feel good when you're leaving the gym. When you get home afterwards, you're going to feel so proud of yourself, right? So start thinking about that. Or if you're trying to eat better, if you're trying to get more fruits and veggies in, instead of thinking, oh, I have to eat this or I should eat this when really I don't want to. Instead, start thinking about it as thinking this is going to fuel my body in such a beautiful way. My cells, my organs, my skin, everything is going to love this food so much. It's going to be nourishing and it's going to fuel it properly and I'm going to feel fantastic. It's going to support all of the activities I want to do. It's going to give me more energy. It's going to improve my sleep and improve my long-term health. And I'm going to feel so good having done that. So it's just a sort of a reframe in how we're thinking about the behaviors that we're trying to do. Instead of it being, oh, I should do this, I need to do this, I have to do this, which is just going to trigger your brain to want to avoid it more. Instead, start selling it to your brain as more of a positive action, as something that there's a benefit to, as something that feels good, as something you can look forward to, as something that offers some kind of immediate payoff. You're going to feel great. You're going to be proud of yourself. You're going to have a sense of satisfaction, and start focusing on that in the benefit, because that's going to make it much easier to stay on track. Okay, the third thing we need to stop doing if we're trying to create healthier habits and make them stick consistently is stop trying to rely on willpower. So another thing I see happen all the time is people come up with a great idea, something they want to do, a healthier thing. I want to start, exercising more. I want to drink more water. I want to start a meditation practice. Fantastic. But they come up with that idea, and then they just decide that with the decision to make it happen and just willpower is going to make it stick and make them be able to do it consistently. We know this doesn't work, right? It never ends well. And this is in part because habits don't just happen out of thin air. They need what we call an anchor. So what this is some kind of trigger in your regular day that reminds your brain to do the habit. So when you're trying to create a new habit, you need to come up with an anchor for it. Some moment during the day, something you already do every day or as frequently as you want to do the new habit. You need to come up with that anchor and then decide that your new habit will be attached to that anchor. So let me give you an example. If you want to exercise more, instead of just saying, I'm just going to exercise more and hoping that will happen, instead think of something you already do regularly. Okay, so after I brush my teeth in the morning, I'm going to do 10 burpees, right? Something like that. Or if you want to drink more water, fantastic. But what's something else that you do as regularly as you'd want to do that? Well, what about every time I check my phone, I'll take a sip from my water bottle, right? That would be great. Or if you want to create a meditation practice, fantastic. So what about every time I turn off the TV at night, I'll sit down and do 5 minutes of meditation, right? So you see how you're attaching the new behavior to an anchor that already exists in your day. You have to attach, habits like to string together. So you have to attach a new habit to an existing habit. So when you're trying to create a new habit, stop trying to just hope for willpower to make it work, and instead start thinking about an anchor that you can attach it to so that you'll actually be able to do it consistently. All right, so let's talk about the fourth thing that you have to stop doing if you want to create healthier habits. And that is to stop measuring your success by what happened today. We focus way too much on the position that we're at today rather than the journey that we're on, the trajectory. And so, for example, if you were to go to the gym today and then come home and look in the mirror, nothing would have changed. And if you just measured your success by that, you would think you were failing. But really, you are on a path. You're on a journey. You're on a trajectory. You're creating new behaviors. You're creating new habits. And this is transformational. This is important that you're doing it, right? You're succeeding. But if we just focus on what I did today, oh, I ate something I wish I hadn't, or I didn't work out as hard as I should have, or I didn't work out at all today, we're gonna feel like we're failing. And as I spoke about earlier, every time your brain feels like it's in pain or uncomfortable or like it's failing, it's going to end up shutting down. It's going to end up throwing in the towel. And we've all been there. So instead of focusing on position, where you are right now and what you think you did today, instead of that being the measuring factor of your success, start thinking about the path you're taking, all the healthier choices you have made during today or during the week, all the fact that you are working towards this, the fact that you're trying to build healthier habits, the fact that you're watching a video like this about how to build healthier habits. You are on a path, and start to see that bigger holistic picture and measure your success based on that, rather than just where you are today. All right, and that brings me to my fifth and final thing that you need to stop doing if you want to create healthier habits. And that is to stop focusing on the things that you didn't do and start celebrating the things you did. Now, again, I've mentioned a few times in this video that your brain does not like it when it feels pain or discomfort or failure, right? Any of these things automatically trigger your brain to kind of shut down, pull back, give up, all of that. Again, we've all experienced this. And we can be our own worst critic. I'm sure you're familiar with this. I call it sort of the mean voice in your head that is constantly criticizing you, constantly pointing out all the ways that you've failed or all the things you didn't do well enough or didn't do enough of. And this is a recipe for failure when it comes to creating new habits, because your brain, again, is never going to get on board with repeating a behavior if it doesn't feel good. And so instead of focusing on all the things you think you didn't do or didn't do enough of, or yeah, sure, I did that, but I should have done this, or sure, I did a little bit of that, but I should have done more. You know what I'm talking about. Instead, I want you to really, really deliberately focus on celebrating your wins. So maybe you didn't go for the 5K run, but maybe you did walk to the end of the block and back. Celebrate that. Don't focus on, yeah, but I should have done this, or yeah, but I didn't do enough. Instead, focus on what you did do and celebrate it. Make it feel good. Not only is this a nicer way to live because it feels nice to give yourself a pat on the back, but just from a neuroscience perspective, from a psychology perspective, every time you celebrate yourself, your brain is much more likely to want to repeat that behavior again because it feels good, right? If you feel like a success, if you feel like you're winning, if you feel like you're actually doing it, your brain is much more likely to want to do it again. It feels good. Your brain likes to do things that feel good. So really, really try to override that old habit of just always focusing on what you didn't do or didn't do enough of, and instead start to think about, how can I celebrate my wins? Where can I find the success here? What can I celebrate here about this choice that I made? Again, not only does it feel better just to live that way, but it will actually set you up for success in terms of making healthier choices consistently. Because if it feels good, your brain is much more likely to want to do it again. Okay, so just to recap, the 5 things that you need to stop doing if you want to make healthier habits consistently. 1, stop thinking so big and start thinking about baby steps. 2, stop positioning the healthier choices as something that you have to do or should do, and rather as things that you want to do, things that have some kind of payoff, things that you're actually in some way looking forward to. 3, stop relying on willpower to make healthy habits stick and instead start thinking about where you can find anchor moments to attach new habits to. 4, stop measuring your success by just what happened today and start instead measuring your success by the trajectory you're on, the path you're on. And finally, number 5, stop focusing on what you didn't do and instead start celebrating what you did do. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I know that, again, often on this channel, I'm talking about things that we can do to create healthier habits, and specifically healthy habits that stick consistently instead of things we just start and stop again and again. But I thought this would be maybe useful to talk about some of the things we also need to stop doing if we're going to create healthier habits consistently. Because again, it's one thing to focus on the things you want to do, the exercise and the eating right and the drinking more water, meditating, sleeping, self-care, all these things, fantastic. But there's also some things we need to stop doing, and sometimes those can even be more effective than just focusing on what we want to do, right? Because these things can really get in the way and they can sabotage us and they can take us off track. And even when we have the best intentions, if we don't stop doing some of these things first, they're going to continually derail us, and we know how frustrating that is. So let me know in the comments below what your sort of takeaway was from this video. I'm so curious. Are you guilty of doing any of the things I talked about here today? And are you going to stop doing maybe one of them or do things a little differently? I'd really love to hear, and I'd love to be able to help you on your journey and give you any feedback that I have, okay? And finally, of course, remember, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the little notification bell, give this video a like, please. It really helps me out as well over here on YouTube. If this content, if these videos are useful for you, it would really help me out. So subscribe, like, hit the bell, do all the things, comment, share. I would love it. And I'll see you right back here next week.